Hi, I'm David Skidmore. In today's lesson, we're going to be spending a lot of time playing wide intervals, especially octaves. We'll be using double lateral strokes throughout in the sticking 4, 3, 2, 1. In this lesson, there'll be interval changes only in your left hand. Your right hand will be set at the interval of an octave throughout the entire lesson, so you'll have a lot of time to practice and get comfortable with that octave in your right hand. Now I'm right-handed, which means that naturally my right hand is a little bit stronger and more confident than my left hand. So this lesson is great for me because there's a bunch of interval changes in the left hand, and focusing on these allows me to get strength and confidence with this weaker hand. So let's jump right into the warm-up exercises. The first warm-up exercise will get us comfortable playing in octaves. It's not an interval we've used a ton in this series so far, but it's good to know that the octave is often the widest interval you'll be asked to play in one hand on the marimba. First, set your mallets in the interval of an octave. Now notice my thumb position. I know that throughout this entire exercise that we're about to play, I'm only going to be playing octaves. So I've got my thumb in a position that will give me the maximum strength and support for this wide interval. If my thumb is positioned more like this on the side of the stick, I'm not going to have as much control over the mallets as I'm playing. In the next series of exercises, we're going to focus on these interval changes that need to happen in the left hand. Pay particular attention to when these interval change shifts happen. Just like with every other lesson so far, those shifts are going to happen as soon as possible, immediately after the note preceding the interval shift. Let's start with warm-up exercise 2A. Also, check out my placement on the bars in my left hand. I start at an ideal playing position, near the center of the bar. But then as soon as my left hand becomes split between the upper and lower manual, I play on the edge of the bar in the upper manual and towards the center of the bar in the lower manual. You'll also notice that the notes in this exercise are the exact same pitches that you are playing in the first 4 measures of the Etude that's a part of this lesson. That's of course not a mistake. I'm always trying to use the exercises to reinforce the notes that you need to learn anyway to play the Etude. Warm-up exercise 2B is the exact same pitches as 2A, but now the hands are split into alternating eighth notes. Notice that once again, those interval change shifts are happening as soon as possible, immediately after the preceding note. In warm-up 2C, we start incorporating the double lateral strokes, first in the right hand. And finally, in warm-up 2D, we play the music almost identical to how it appears in the Etude, with double lateral strokes in both the right hand and the left hand. By focusing on when these interval change shifts happen, starting with exercise 2A when we're just playing block chords, and continuing to focus on that all the way through this series of exercises, means that by the time I get to this last exercise, I've already ingrained a lot of good habits about when to change to the next interval. And ingraining these good habits will make you more accurate, it'll allow you to play faster, and it'll give you more control over the music in general. Now let's take this opportunity to remember that all of the exercises that we've just played and all the exercises in this lesson and in this entire series should be played at a wide range of different dynamic levels so that we're continuing to get comfortable playing at all different dynamic levels. So let's play exercise 2D one more time, but let's play it pianissimo. Of course, as you'll recall, playing pianissimo only means that I'm thinking about stick heights. I'm keeping my hands nice and relaxed, but I'm just not bringing them as far up off the bar, and that's what allows me to play at this quieter dynamic level. The melodic material in this etude is not clearly indicated by tenuto markings or accents or special dynamic markings, and you'll find this in some music. Some music will really clearly show you on the page where the melody is, and other music you'll have to use your musical intuition and your instincts to figure out which part you want to bring out. Just because there's no indication on the printed music for where the melody is doesn't mean that you should play all of the notes exactly the same dynamic. You need to dig in and find out which parts are the most interesting. One great way to do this is just find a voice that changes. So perhaps one of the voices that you're playing stays static, same pitch over and over again, and another voice is constantly changing pitch. Well, there's a good chance that that changing pitch will be more interesting than the static pitch, so that change is what you want to bring out. Check out the first 10 measures of the etude in this lesson. In those 10 bars, the top 3 mallets, mallets 4, 3, and 2, play the exact same pitches for the entire 10 measures. So the only note that's changing is your number 1 mallet, the lowest note in the passage. So that's a pretty clear indication that your bottom note, that number 1 mallet, is the most interesting. It's changing the most, it's the melody. So you want to be sure to play it out a little bit so it comes out of the texture. But the melody moves around in this etude. It's not always in that lowest voice. So look through the music and figure out where one voice is changing and where one voice is staying static. And if you want to, you can even circle in the music which notes that you're trying to bring out as a reminder while you're learning the music. Finally, let's talk about phrasing, and let's revisit the concept of rubato once again. Remember that rubato is subtle changes in the tempo at very specific points to add expression to a musical phrase. In the phrasing exercise, I indicate ritardando, slow down, accelerando, speed up, a tempo, return to the original tempo. And this is just a sort of a way of writing out a suggestion of how you might play rubato in this passage. Just like we talked about when we're using dynamics to shape a musical phrase, when you're using tempo alterations, rubato, to shape a musical phrase, you want to make sure that these changes are really subtle. So let me play for you this phrasing exercise. As you can see, I'm not making major changes in the tempo. I'm just subtly bending the tempo just a little bit to add emphasis at a certain point in this musical phrase. Don't forget to check out my performance of the complete etude from this lesson for more ideas about how and when to use rubato and dynamics in your musical phrasing. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.